3, 2, 1. Hello.
Oh, I was hoping we'd all remain silent, waiting for everyone else to start talking.
Oh, well, that's awkward because I just broke the silence. We can try again if you want.
No, that's okay. Maybe next week.
No, I'll just go quiet. Hold it. Here we go.
Okay, here we go. This has been a huge success. All right, I can't do it.
I can't do it either.
How
are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, man. It's been a while since we've done an actual podcast. We've got a lot of new videos going up on the channel for playthroughs, but nothing podcast specific.
Yeah, well, we like playing through things, and sometimes we like casting our pods, but mostly
That's
playing.
True. And as we've added people to the playthroughs, we've now added people to the podcast, eh?
Hey, wait, who did we add? Surprise, surprise.
Let's see. We added our good friend Jaymes, who we are actually all over at his house with the exception of you.
So we're not all over there.
Much to our regret.
Yeah, well, I mean, it'd be really easy if you didn't live 3,000 miles away.
So I can move 1,000 miles away and we'll make it work?
No, actually, you can move up to, what is that, 150? 100?
Okay.
All right.
I'll see what I can do.
For the people who listen to this podcast...
it's mostly my mom.
Okay, well, to tell people a little bit about me, these two are nerds, and I am much nerdier, so that's pretty much all you need to know.
We'll give him a chance to prove that here shortly.
King of the nerds.
It's pretty fucking true, though, because I think there's, like, about once a week, or sometimes even more, where I'm like, I have a Game of Thrones question or a Star Wars question. Jaymes, can you answer this for me? And then sure as shit, some nerdy-ass response comes through for me.
It usually involves a spreadsheet.
Or multiple. And then, to add on to the add-ons, we have the guy who is currently leading us through our clusterfuck of a Divinity campaign, which is Seth.
Ta-da!
Hello.
It's Seth. You know him from his carrying ability if you've watched any of our videos.
Yes, you'll know him from such videos as carrying my scrub friends through Divinity and carrying my scrub friends through Divinity 2. Ooh.
He's taught me invaluable lessons about Divinity, like you can't just murder the entire town and get the same amount of experience as doing all their random ass tasks.
Also, you can't murder the entire town and actually get the fuck off the island.
Nope. But that didn't stop us from trying.
If only we had taken the swim talent. Long ass swim.
I mean, you can take that right in character creation.
There we go. Well, so I guess that leads us on to what have we been playing?
Divinity 2, baby. And we're going to be playing some more, baby.
We are.
Yeah, I'm actually I'm loving it. I'm having a great time.
It's a game that we seem to come back to a lot, despite never having finished.
Yeah, and also seemingly never getting better at, except for Seth. Seth, you're excluded from all my negative comments today. I assure you at some point I'll be super negative towards you.
Wow. All right. I'll just brace myself now for that.
Okay, enjoy your time off.
How many hours do you have spent in Divinity, Danny?
Oh, yeah, I have no idea. I mean, I can check here. But you're going to have to give me a second because I was unprepared. I would estimate 50.
Okay, you have 50.
Without looking at it, I would say probably like 230.
And Jaymes?
I'll find out, but I think, will we not lay this game down? 57 hours only, so I'm the scrubbiest here. But Baldur's Gate, the new D&D game, I see that replacing this in our hearts.
Really?
That could be true, but we do have to finish this because coincidentally enough, our save file is called Definitely Will Play Through or something to that effect. So
yeah, definitely will complete.
It basically locked us in.
Don't we have our old save file laying
Sure
by?
don't.
We were just about to get off the island on that one. We had literally just done the last fight.
We were on the ship.
We've made it to like Act 3 with our group.
How many
Well,
acts are
Seth
there?
and I have made it really far, but we've never finished. That's the point. We're not so good at the whole finishing thing. I mean, I have 121 hours.
Oh man, I have 61.
I have 254, looking at the exact number.
And during that time, I don't think that any of us have really shown proficiency in the game, with the exception of Seth.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly enjoy all the different instruments you can choose.
And I've literally played the exact same character every single time, too. So the fact that I haven't gotten any better in 121 hours is really something to write about.
Perfect. Are we planning on changing that, or we'll change games before that happens?
I mean, I just kind of figure Seth will keep playing as a proxy for me, and we'll just execute on his plan. The only one here who might get better is Jaymes, because he actually cares to learn and to figure out how to play his character.
Yeah, but then I'm just handicapped by,
Being
myself.
colorblind.
The weighty knowledge weighing his head down to the keyboard and not allowing him to lift it high enough to make effective decisions. Well, that's part of the reason that I like it, though. I haven't really got into the lore of a lot of games. I'm a huge Mario fan and Zelda fan.
What's the lore of Mario?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
There's a princess in a castle.
He's a plumber.
And you always save the wrong castle.
Yeah, exactly. So
until you don't.
I'm a little
got a brother
lower
that
light.
he respects a lot.
Yeah, it's almost like they're voiced by the same guy. But yeah, this one's allowed me to get into a little bit of lore, like, dip my toes in and enjoy having my toes, knuckle deep in there.
How often do you go knuckle deep with your toes?
Well, I don't know. When was the last time we were hanging out?
I don't know, because you were ankle deep in that shit.
Well, I mean, it still counts as knuckle deep.
Yeah, that's true. All of them, and then some other joints.
Yeah, pretty much. Either way, what I'm saying is I'm enjoying it and opening a new page, turning a new page in my...
Seth, you've never beat the game, though, either, have you?
Wait, what?
No, I have a problem where I think of new builds, and so I have to just restart and try it out.
We're letting him guide us through this, and he's never even beat it?
He knows all the builds for all the characters in every situation. Like, yeah, the guy
except for the final situation. What if there's something that we need at the end?
Then I'm sure he'll be the first to understand and spot where we're defective before we even have an idea of what the fuck is going on.
Oh, okay. All right.
I was able to make it off the island on my own the first time, so...
Okay, well, that's...
So we're just weighing you down. Oh, okay.
No.
All right.
No.
Not much of an argument after no, but I'll believe it.
Yeah, I got nothing.
For people who've never played Divinity, how would you describe it?
I think we should let Seth describe it, because I tried describing it to Spike, and it was a little
I also want
lackluster.
Jaymes to describe it, because he DMs for a Dungeons and Dragons campaign that we play through.
I was actually going to mention that it's my favorite thing about the game. I think even though it's not the same, classes or abilities, it really does feel just like playing D&D on the tabletop. You got to be more considered instead of just, the WoW approach of just smash all the buttons, really thinking about action economy. So I like that piece.
Yeah, I agree. The other cool thing about this game, and we haven't tried it yet, is there is a way to DM a game, right, Seth?
Yep, there's a DM mode where you can just kind of create your entire full campaign, and you as the DM have all the triggers and stuff for it. So it's really cool.
Oh, wicked. Well, at some point, if we ever get through the regular gameplay, that'd be fun to try.
Yeah, if we ever beat our stock campaign, then Seth can create us a whole new shitstorm Or Jaymes can create us a whole new shitstorm to try and muddle our way through.
It's double that playtime before we even step into the map.
Yep.
All right.
Perfect.
So we're playing Divinity, which is basically D&D. Just get the fuck on board and go watch the videos if you haven't already.
Yeah, we'll try to. I mean, you can watch the playthroughs. Maybe we'll post one of those, but I'll try and cut something down pretty short and digestible instead of what will surely take 15 hours to play through. And we don't expect anyone to sit there for 15 hours that isn't connected to a keyboard.
You think it's only going to take us 15 hours to get through
15 more hours on top of the 6 we've already put into it.
There's no fucking way. What the hell are you smoking?
Really?
We still have, I guarantee, like 40 hours.
Speedrunners beat it in 20 minutes.
Are you a speedrunner?
I run pretty fast.
But not through games.
Not this one. Or really
How long
many
do we
of
have,
them.
Seth?
It's really hard to say because
Seth doesn't know. He's never fucking beat it either.
Yeah, that's why it's hard to say.
I've made it to like the last 3 fights is all I needed to get through. But it's if you play like a completionist playthrough where you try and get like all the epic stuff you can. Yeah, I would say 30, 35, 30 hours more, maybe 40.
And not.
I mean, we skip all the dialogue because I mean none of us really care for that, and so that cuts down on a lot of the time.
And also, that's pretty much status quo for me. I made it through like 10 years of WoW without knowing what the fuck was going on. So,
Yeah, exactly.
All right, cool.
Beauty. Yeah, we'll
Danny,
have some cool content for that.
Have you watched The Witcher?
Yes, I have. I have indeed. You're talking about the TV series on Netflix, right? You're not talking about the game.
Yeah, the TV series on Netflix.
That's actually a good point. Who hasn't played the game or read the books?
I have not done either.
Danny.
Well, I mean, if you were going to point at somebody and guess who hasn't, it would be me, right?
Witcher 3 is perhaps one of the best RPGs ever made. Okay. I'm trying to think of one that's better. I'm sure they exist, but none are coming to mind.
Is there a close second?
I mean, Final Fantasy comes to mind.
Okay, so what you're saying is I need to get on the Witcher 3 train, and
coincidentally I'm doing a playthrough on the channel as well.
Okay, I've watched enough of your playthrough to help you through audio issues, and that's all I've really even seen. Other than that,
and yell at Roach a lot.
Yeah, that's true. And I know who Roach is. That fucking guy
just disappears on me all the time, and then he comes through the most inefficient way of getting to me. Like, fucking the other day, I'm just out there on a road, and Roach comes trampling through the forest like he's fucking Sasquatch. I'm like, why didn't you just take the road from where I left you?
What kind of time commitment goes into The Witcher 3? Because we're already like setting up a huge commitment for Divinity 2 Original Sin, and if Witcher 3 is perhaps the best RPG out there, what are we talking?
I mean, there is so much side stuff that I couldn't even begin to tell you. I haven't even done all the side stuff as much as I am also somewhat of a completionist.
Okay, but
there's just always more, and the thing about it is it's just really well done storytelling, very compelling characters. It's not like, hey, go collect 7 zebra hooves. It's this engrossing story, and yeah. The combat, I will say, I found a little frustrating. I don't, the timing is kind of tough. I'm not ashamed to admit I dialed down the difficulty and/or cheated because I'm like, I love this story. I don't want to be like fighting this griffin for 2 hours though. So let's get going.
Oh, wicked. Okay.
But now that we've established that you don't know the books or the game, and I've been meaning to ask you this, Danny, because I understand there's an episode that you really don't like. But so I'd like to hear your overall take, and more specifically, what you didn't like about whatever episode that was.
Okay, well, here's the thing. I live to disappoint. So I enjoyed the series a lot. Once I had kind of figured out what was going on.
Constantly deliver on that.
Yes, I will never disappoint in disappointment. Unless you're not expecting it. Okay, so anyway.
And then you'll be disappointed.
You'll be disappointed. So, boom, delivery. I loved it. I loved it a lot. I was kind of like, okay, it's a little all over the place, but then by a couple of episodes in, it ties it together, and I was in. I was locked in. I was like, yep, I'm definitely finishing this series. I'm having a great time along this ride, even though I don't know exactly what's happening when he drinks the potion. Clearly, it gives him some sort of powers. Yeah, not necessarily explained in the thing, but it shows it enough for you to get it as an outsider. So I thought they did a great job. What you are bringing up is, I believe, episode 6. There is a dragon. Are we gonna I'm okay.
Spoilers. Yep. It's a dragon. We've ruined that for viewers.
and there are games and books. Oh no.
Sorry, Steven's mom.
Yeah, sorry. There's a dragon. They start out the episode saying we're gonna go chase after this dragon, though, so it's not like it's a big surprise that there's gonna be a dragon in that episode, unless you're on episode 5, in which case, my bad. But I enjoyed it so much except for during that episode, there were some things that bothered me about what was happening on screen, not necessarily with, deep story or anything like that, just little stupid things that bother me about when I would call it lazy filmmaking or storytelling. And the only thing that comes to mind now, if I watched it again, I could go through more. I just remember being bothered during that episode by a couple of things. The only one of those things that comes to mind was there's a point where some people all the people are walking along the edge of a cliff, and there's a little platform and a chain, and some of the people fall off the platform and they're holding onto the chain, and Gerald? What's his name? Gellert?
Yep, Gellert. Nailed it.
Okay, I don't think that's right.
It's nice to see that Danny paid attention for the whole 8 hours he invested in The Witcher.
To be fair, they only shout the name numerous times. Okay. Geralt of Rivia, the mighty Witcher.
That's why I knew it was wrong. Gellert, Gerald, Geraldo, whatever. So he's there holding onto this chain, and they're like, don't let go, don't let go. Meanwhile, the chain's bolted into the goddamn wall. Like, if he lets go, nothing happens. Like, in fact, and later on, he lets go and they all get across. Like, how did they all get across if he's the one holding on to the bottom of this chain? And so that kind of little stupid stuff was like, okay, that's ridiculous. Why are we... He's not even holding on to them. He's holding onto a chain that's bolted into the wall right behind him. So,
especially considering we both rock climb.
Yeah.
And we know how well those bolts actually hang in there.
That kind of stuff. It's just like little tiny things like that during that episode in particular that I didn't notice in any others. Maybe it was a bad night for me. Maybe I came home from work really bothered about something. That's kind of the stuff I pay attention to. If I'm going to make a comparison,
how much more do you feel like the lore for The Witcher than Divinity?
Oh, I mean, I feel like I know a lot more about The Witcher, but if you compare me to any one of you, I think I would be, in preschool.
Well, don't flatter me. I will say this about it. I loved the show overall. That episode particularly, though, bothered me for a different reason, but also throughout. I thought when you had human actors on screen doing stuff, I thought it was excellent. So some of the swordplay was some of the best ever put on screen. It's really good. But whenever they mix in CGI, the show goes to hell. That episode is very jarring how bad the CGI is for the dragons, I felt like. I also felt like, and I think it's the next episode when Geralt gets attacked by some grave monster things when they come across the Cintran massacre. It's just not good, and it's especially frustrating in that, Geralt is, swinging around, flailing, and I don't think they used human stand-ins because very little is actually influencing him. And when he does get, pushed or shoved, like the Striga, for example, let's show how dangerous this creature is by having it eviscerate somebody. Okay, now it's Geralt's turn against the Striga. What's it going to do? Oh, it's going to grapple him over and over and over again. Like, let's just throw him around a bit. And the grave monsters are just like on his back, like not even trying to like gouge him. And then the camera keeps cutting away right as he's getting swarmed. It's like, oh, it must have fucking worked out, I guess, because that swarm, we just changed the camera shots a few times, and no, he's got space and everything's fine. I thought the CG was very poorly done, and it's probably down to budget. I don't know, but whenever they're doing practical effects, though, I thought the show really shined.
Yeah, like that fight at the first. Whew, that's a beauty. That's a way to get you right in.
The CG was just about the only thing that bugged me, and there's a tendency, I feel like, if you don't have good CG and a lot of time to spend on it, in order to try and make things look real, they tend to make them look metallic. And so, like, the monster that he's fighting in the very first episode just looks like shiny metallic, which is not at all really what it is. And the lighting effects on some of it just kind of bother me because they don't match what actually is shining down on Henry Cavill, who plays Geralt. So that's probably my biggest thing and the fucking dragon. I just thought the dragon, we're kind of, a little bit, I don't know, probably accustomed now to the Game of Thrones CG, where they've just pumped in so much money in developing and perfecting the CG that their dragons look amazing. So now you have The Witcher to compare to, and it just looks like fucking garbage.
Yeah. At least the dragons in Game of Thrones, as beautiful as they were, they were in a pretty shitty story towards the end, let's be honest, as much as I love the books. So at least The Witcher's bad CG, I'm willing to suspend my disbelief a little bit more because, they're doing a good job with it. And Henry Cavill, his best performance, I say. I mean, he's done a few things, but, I'm not a Superman fan. But he was just such the perfect Geralt for both book and game players that he really carried the show on his back.
No, hands down, best performance from Henry Cavill is cocking his biceps in Mission Impossible. You got to really pump those things up.
Yeah, anyone that knows you will know that's exactly your favorite thing in the world.
Dude, he's so good as Geralt. I really did enjoy him. I really thought he did a terrific job.
I want to hear Seth's take on the Witcher series.
I have a lot of the same opinions as everyone else here. I really liked it. I've rewatched it a second time and noticed some of the things that like Steven had pointed out with like the lighting and the CGI and stuff like that. And yeah, I agree. It's not the best, but I think it did well enough that I'm super excited for what's to come and the improvements that we see. I still probably every week go back and watch the Butcher of Blaviken scene just because it's so well done. To the point where I've found some like small flaws in that, even where like the first guy he like slashes through has no cut whatsoever on his chest when he like gets turned around. But like small stuff like that I think just gets overlooked. But for the most part, watching it through the very first time, I absolutely loved it. I couldn't get enough of it.
Like that small stuff is the stuff that I pay attention to for a living, basically. So that's the kind of stuff that takes me out. So my question would be for all of you, if you were gonna recut this movie and kind of replan it, or not movie, series from the start, would you rather take away some of the like, hey, look, we know we're gonna be short on some of these CGs, it's gonna fall short, it's gonna fall flat. Would you change some of these mystical characters for I don't know, replace them with a little storytelling, maybe take some of the fight out of it? Like how would you do it differently if you knew you were going to be short on budget, or you just say, hey, you know, we'll do the best we can and try and get the best CG character we can across, even though it's going to suck a little bit and take you out?
I feel like as far as like continuity for the story is concerned, I feel like you almost have to do it when they did it, because there's a ton that was left out. Like if they're following the books, there's a ton of detail that was left out already, and like the whole like dragon episode, for example, like that's a pretty significant part in Geralt's story. So I think you have to do it if the end goal is to get from where they start with the Butcher of Blaviken all the way up to where like the three stories kind of collide. So I'm fine with how they did it. That's my opinion.
I'll tell you one thing that I would do very differently, and this is something that's been bothering me a lot with modern storytelling in movies and shows. And it was really pioneered by Lindelof and JJ in Lost, and then everyone's kind of recycled this formula where you show everything in a non-linear order. Some people do that very well. Christopher Nolan does a terrific job with that technique. But more often than not, you wind up with, you know, Maz Kanata saying, oh, we'll tell you about this lightsaber later, and then never getting back to it. I think it is a very lazy storytelling method that serves to hide how poor a story really is. And in this case, it didn't bother me as much because I'd already read the books, I played the game, I knew what was going on. But, you know, chopping up the story just so that Ciri and Geralt are getting somewhat equal screen time was really lame, especially since Ciri's story was not all that compelling for the bulk of it. It's like, okay, you have to go to the forest. Okay, now we must cutscene to take you to this place to drink water. Okay, that water didn't work. We're going to cutscene to another place to drink water and just string this shit along. And for example, you know, episode 1, you learned that Sintra falls, right? And then later on, they invest a lot of time in trying to get you to care about those characters. But by then the audience knows these fuckers are doomed. Who gives a shit? The audience doesn't invest. It's like if before episode 1 of Game of Thrones, if they just show you Ned getting his head chopped off and then rewind to show you how he got there. The audience is never going to be shocked. They're never going to buy into that character because they just know he's doomed. Oh, someone else is the protagonist. So I really feel like you do yourself a bigger disservice by robbing yourself of the shock value of Sintra getting sacked and then trying to rewind and get you to care about these characters that you already know are dead.
No, I agree. That's your climax, and you're kind of giving away the game to the climax early, so that you can keep all the other climaxes on a similar level without blowing one of them out of the water.
Did you climax prematurely?
Well, you know, there's nothing wrong with that, by the way.
Yeah.
And Lost and Westworld Season 2 are great examples of where you just don't have a good story, but you just hide it from the audience until your final reveal. And then when you try and rewatch, you're like, oh, this is horseshit. This is garbage. Another show I just watched is Dracula on Netflix, and there's some glaring continuity problems with it because they utilize the same format to just introduce some mechanism for a bunch of exposition. And I know not everyone has seen that yet. But the more I see it, the more disgusted and tired I grow of it. But in this case, as I said, it didn't really bother me. I knew what was going on. I still feel like they robbed themselves of some shock value and needlessly confused the audience. They even put up on a website a timeline to help viewers piece together where everything is falling in relation to each other. It's like, if you need to release cliff notes for your story to be understood by the layman, then you done fucked up. Show, don't tell.
Yeah, that sounds like a little bit of pre-planning / editing or storyboarding could have helped.
That's a really good point, because I, for instance, have some siblings who are not super nerdy. In fact, not nerdy at all. But she wanted to watch the show, just because I watched the show, and she wanted to have something to talk with me about. And she got through, the first couple episodes, and she's like, I'm so fucking lost. I don't know what's going on. And, she's not the person that's ever going to sit down and read a book, much less a series of books like The Witcher. So if you don't, if you have those kind of people and you want to get them interested, You don't, go away from the format like Game of Thrones did to get people invested in the characters and just blow your load early. You got to get them involved, and it's hard when it does jump around like that. I agree. My favorite scene of the whole fucking show, though?
I mean, I can make a couple of guesses. I bet it has tits in it.
Yep. Man, the whole scene where Geralt meets Yenny and she's having that massive fucking orgy all around him is just so great. I mean, if Seth goes back and watches one scene, I go back and watch that scene at least every day.
Storytelling wise, I think that's like a good storytelling. Like, she's surrounded by a fucking amazing orgy, and she's just like, yeah, I'm so bored with this shit already. Like, I think that's a pretty good setup to her next 4 episodes of being bored with shit.
And then all the people come out of it and are like, oh my God, what are we doing? It's really great. All right. Well, I mean, so watch The Witcher or don't.
You should, though. It is really good. As critical as I am of it, I think they did a remarkable job, and I'm very excited for the next season.
Yeah, I liked it. I think you're right, though, James. Overall, I think it's a lazy storytelling thing. So we'll have to see. Maybe we should do like a count of how many stupid, lazy, messed up storylines there are in all these new series that we're watching. Does it fall in that garbage category, or are we telling a real story here?
Tenet is bound to be in the pro column, because if there's one man I trust to use this mechanism to actually deliver good storytelling that then you go watch it a second time and your mind is blown, Christopher Nolan can do it. So I'm really excited for Tenet.
That's a great point.
Here's one other thing, Danny. You asked about the budget and everything, if you knew you were going to do that. Well, here's the thing. So the last season of Game of Thrones had a budget of roughly $15 million per episode. The Witcher had a budget of $400,000 per episode. If I'm Netflix and I want to make the next Game of Thrones, then fucking invest in it like it's Game of Thrones. If I were Netflix and the story creators and I knew what was going to be involved, I wouldn't have given it the budget that I did.
Well, what kind of budget goes into each Mandalorian episode?
Well, they spent $150 million on the whole season, from what I understand, and Baby Yoda alone cost $5 million for just the puppet. So
money well spent.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, he's meme city, baby.
Apparently, when Jason Sudeikis punched Baby Yoda, Favreau had to go over and be like, that puppet's $5 million. Could you please not hit it so hard that you break it and we have to spend $5 million on a new puppet?
That was Sudeikis? Oh my God.
So, I mean, I would have spent, at least what Game of Thrones was spending during, season 4, 5, 6. To make sure that it was good. Obviously, they don't need to spend what they spent on season 8, because season 8 still proved that you could have a big budget and be a complete shit show. But at least spend enough to where everything's fully refined in your CG as well as can be, and that you're giving your writers and everything ample time to really hash it out, so that even people who aren't the lore nerds writing the script can understand what the hell's going on.
Listen, I'm going to put a plug in here for the animators out there, because I know the animation world is going to change in the next couple of years, because the way it is now, they're not unionized, and so the number of animation houses that are going bankrupt and do a giant series and then they're gone is way too many to sustain in this kind of model for what they do.
Why don't you help bankrupt some more and keep those practical effects shops in?
Well, but you just were complaining about the CG in The Witcher.
I'm saying augment it, man.
Well, yeah, you need, if you're going to augment it, then you need an animation house that you pay properly.
The other thing is, I don't know this for sure, but I think that Netflix does like in-house, or they use the same animators for both Stranger Things and for The Witcher, because a lot of the animation and the way that the mobs all looked on screen was very similar to how Stranger Things does it too, which is actually my complaint about Stranger Things. And especially like season 3, you've got a huge fuck off mind flayer out there, and it just looks kind of garbagey.
Yeah, I mean, it was always on its own. It was always on its own, never really in scenes with a bunch of people, so they could make it a lot easier to look realistic when you don't have to mash it up with every shot with people in it or fighting Geralt.
Yeah. So speaking of garbage, do we want to move on to Star Wars?
Garbage.
That seems to be the internet consensus.
Whoa,
it's not my consensus, but
I wouldn't go that far. I think after they really screwed the pooch with episode 8, and again, this is another symptom of that mystery box, because when you don't tell the audience what's going on in episode 7, they're going to fill in the blanks. And so then everyone's going to be disappointed when their story isn't the one being told. So the problems with Star Wars, as much as I love JJ, I wear squarely at episode 7, very badly setting up episode 8, and episode 8 being executed even worse. So episode 9 after 8, it was pretty much the best we could possibly have hoped for. It's got its flaws. It's deeply flawed, but I really think they just had themselves in a corner. What were you going to do? Because the roadmap was either didn't exist, or it was so bad that it was quickly abandoned. Either way, that was a horribly managed trilogy. Kathleen Kennedy ought to be fired, and Favreau ought to take her place, be the Feige of Star Wars.
I think that
like how 7 ended. Like there's a little bit of mystery. Like, who's this Rey? Like, I kind of like that mystery that they set up and then tarnished in 8, and it was just like, hey, no mystery anymore. Super lame. And then 9 tries to bring it back with, but it really was a mystery, even though we told you it wasn't. Remember, they're nobody. Your parents are nobodies, but it was more metaphorical nobodies.
I think the original trilogy proves that you can have 3 different directors do a fantastic job of making a trilogy, but you need some underlying continuity, and that was obviously missing, because from how I understand and what I've read is that JJ just kind of did 7 and then left it, and then he obviously wasn't planning on coming back for 9, so it was up to everyone else to fill it in. And then when 8 was so terrible and they had to fire, I forget the director's name for 9, but they fired him and brought JJ on, he hadn't planned this whole thing out. And the fan backlash from 8 was so significant that he had to try and retcon that while also, creating his own story for it that he didn't have planned out. So...
But then it ended up getting changed from what he was thinking for a long time as well, right? In the very end, I don't know. I haven't read a ton, but the little bit I've read is that the cut that he made was vastly different from the one that was released after it went through all the producers.
And apparently a lot longer, too. Like 3.5 hours sort of long.
Yeah, I haven't got too into it. I just, that's kind of what I understood, was that he was disappointed to be like, wow, where's the movie that we made?
Who knows, how much truth there is to it. There's probably a band of internet junkies out there petitioning for the JJ cut like they are the Snyder cut of Justice League. But I don't know. For what we got, I'd say I'm moderately disappointed with the trilogy as a whole, but I was oddly satisfied with the end result because of how low the expectations had been set after episode 8.
Yeah, I mean, my expectations were pretty low, and thus I enjoyed it a lot. When I went in, I was like, I love this. This is great. I had a great time. I was entertained and awesome. Yeah, all right, I'm in. And then I got out and I hadn't read anything, seen anything. I'm one of those that I don't watch any trailers. I don't watch nothing because trailers give the game away. You know, maybe a teaser here and there I'll watch, but I don't watch anything. So when I came out and saw everybody fucking hated this movie, or everybody online, I should say, hated the movie, I was like, well, really? Where's all that coming from? Okay. But
Seth, did you like the movie?
Yeah, my opinions are about so you can expect, like, I was entertained. I think that's a really good word for it. My expectations were about as strong as like the continuity between all the movies, so it was super low to begin with. And so the fanfare, like all of the nods to what we wanted answers for that came through in the last movie, I think saved the whole thing. To be like, I can look back at the trilogy and be like, that was at best just entertaining. And so I'm glad that I watched it. I'm glad that there was some of the answers that we've been looking for, and I don't have an issue with a lot of the stuff that other people seem to have an issue with. Like, I thought that the scene where, you know, Ren and Kylo, or Rey and Kylo, where they like kiss and stuff like that, I thought that was fine. I thought that, you know, there's probably an explanation when people are linked so closely that there's a real heavy emotional response there. And so, like, there's just a ton of scenes that I thought were done well, and I'm happy with it.
I agree. I mean, Luke and Leia kissed, and they were pretty connected. We all seemed okay with that.
Right.
You know, I will say, I think that Kylo and his whole story was probably the biggest saving grace for the whole trilogy, because, you know, I think that he was ultimately the most compelling character, which I guess you kind of want, you know, your big baddie to sort of be, and then find him. I think it would have been really interesting to have still had him live at the end, and then had him fucking like put on trial for all his war crimes, and watch the Ewoks just like heroin from him or something.
Yeah, because the thing everybody loved about the episodes 1, 2, and 3 was the political process that we got drugged through. And so if we could finish off the series with a trial and a prosecution and all that crap, I think we would have ended it properly.
Yeah, I say that completely joking. I saw a bunch of posts of like, oh, Kylo should have lived. And it's like, what's he going to do if he does? Like, they're not just going to be like, okay, Space Hitler, now you're free to go because you helped at the end. Like, no, that guy's dead either way. Just kill him off and have it meaningful, at least.
That's true.
Speaking of meaningful, though, there's a lack of consequence that I find very irritating. Oh, Chewie's dead. Oh, no, he's fine. Oh, Rey is dead. Oh, don't worry, she's fine. Like, there really was zero enforcement.
His mind is wiped. No.
Oh, he's back now. Exactly. Like, Marvel is pretty guilty of it too. So I wonder if it's Disney's fingerprints that they don't want to upset the fans by killing off a beloved character, but it just lacks any emotional weight when you just know they're going to Mary Sue their way out of every situation and be just fine.
I agree. That is actually totally why fine. I felt Kylo had to die too. Like, there had to be some sort of ongoing loss established from that. And, you know, even though the loss is only really meaningful to Rey, because to everyone else, he's just fucking Space Hitler. Like, even though it's only meaningful to her, you know, they're the characters that we spend the most time with. So,
well, the only other character they killed off was Princess Leia, and she's been dead for 5 years.
Yeah, I think that.
I think you went mute.
I think real life, you know, kind of forced that. So, I don't know. I guess we stand on this. Go see it or don't.
Go see it or don't. Don't believe the internet. The internet's a terrible place. You can catch us live and in person in Jaymes' basement. Other than that, we're on the internet.
Mom, just come over, and you could just sit here and bullshit with us.
Yeah.
Man, then we'll lose 100% of our audience views, though.
Oh, wow.
Actually, stay where you're at, Mom. Watch this in bed like you typically do. That's for the best. All right, well, you want to get going? We'll play some Divinity.
Yeah. If you stuck around this far, you know that you're in for some great Divinity content for the next how many hours, Seth? 30?
Yeah, if that at a minimum.
Okay,
All
right.
We're not going to sleep till it's done.
Perfect. No sleep till Brooklyn, baby.
I just had flashbacks to Ninja Gaiden.
Oh my god! And I'm sure these goons will be around, but you can catch them over there on the playthrough as well.